Please raise your right hand. You swear the testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I swear.
May be seated.
Chief, could you please spell your full name for the record?
It's David Walton, D-A-V-I-D, last name Walton, W-A-L-T-O-N.
Thank you. Chief, could you provide some, for context for the panel today, your experience involving, I guess, supervisory and command positions at police departments?
Sure. So I was hired and appointed as the chief of police here in Greenwood in December of 2024. Prior to that, I've had approximately 24 years of law enforcement experience. I retired from the Smyrna Police Department as a lieutenant, the operations commander. I had a short stint with the Camden Police Department, and then I was the chief of police for the town of Frederick.
So I'm going to go ahead and try to move somewhat expeditiously. In your capacity as chief, have you had interactions with town manager Todd?
Yes, lots.
Okay. And so the first question that I'll ask you about relates to issues with the police K-9 program. And I guess I would just ask you to summarize, were there any problems or issues that arose with respect to that program at all involving Ms. Todd? And if so, could you explain?
Sure. I'll try to keep it short and sweet. I know we're kind of running short on time today. I'm sure everybody wants to get out of here. So the quick overview of the program, I thought it was a good idea to bring to our town. We're a short-staffed police department, so any asset or resource I can gain, I thought it would be a valuable tool to bring. But I'm not a chief who just makes decisions on my own. I like to incorporate everybody's ideas. So when this initial erection of this unit was decided to start, I created a work group because I value other people's opinions and want their insight. The work group consisted of myself, town manager Todd, my then police administrator, and my lieutenant. We had several meetings with this work group to bounce around ideas, which also included finances and how this was going to be funded, equipment, training, all those things that come along with creating a new program from scratch. Thought everything was going good. As I explained to everyone, I valued their opinions, their suggestions, but ultimately I have the daunting task of deciding what direction we're going to go with the police department as I am the chief of police. How much further do you want me to go into the overview of it?
Yeah, so I think that's fair for the overview. So, my understanding from the exhibits and the testimony we've heard to date is that at some point in time there was information provided to council about the K-9 program. There was a decision made to perhaps pause the program, and then later on a decision made to unpause the program. Do you have any information regarding those circumstances and how that unfolded?
Yeah, so we began the program, began to find out the financial decisions that needed to be made. My whole plan was to ensure that it would have little cost to the town. We were going to be utilizing grants, SLEAF funding, things of that nature.
Say that again for me.
SLEAF, yes. Yeah.
Spell it for me, please.
S-L-E-A-F, yeah. It's a grant through the state to make these purchases. So the town really wouldn't have to worry about a financial burden. I was trying to do it well within the financial capabilities of the town. That's kind of where the discrepancy started. Some of the suggestions were to purchase a new dog. That was kind of costly. I knew this was going to be the biggest hurdle, which then this opportunity arose that Katie from Barbajas Kennels actually offered to donate a K-9 to us, which would greatly save us that financial impact. For whatever reason, Ms. Todd was not approving of this. She basically told me, no, it's not a good idea. Numerous times told me we should just hold off on the program, and I couldn't figure out why. At the, I believe it was the May council meeting, at the prior council meeting, a council member had kind of let the cat out of the bag and announced that we were starting our fundraising for the program when I was not fully ready to present the program. So I was kind of put in a position that I had to bring the program to light to educate council on the direction I was taking. So at the May council meeting, I had a very quick overview and just described why a K-9 would be needed and the early steps that we had taken. Upon completion of my police report, at the end of the council meeting, they moved into an executive session. I was not privy to the executive session and was dismissed from the council chambers. I was actually still in the building and was available, as I always come back in when we go back into session to finish the regular council meeting, and I was never informed of anything. The very next morning, I was met at the police department by Councilman Massey, who requested to speak with me in my offices. We came into my office, he was very blunt and just said, look, we support the program, but we're stopping it, we don't want you to have this dog. I had some questions. I asked where this information came from, when this was discussed. He told me that it was discussed in executive session. I basically explained to him that I felt a little undermined because if it pertained to a police matter, why was the chief of police not privy to be there to present or promote his program? I was told that Ms. Todd had made some comments and educated them on that the dog was sick and old and some other comments, which I was never told about this. So I immediately discussed it with him, provided him with some actual facts of where we were going with the program, and he immediately stated, well, would you be able to bring this back to council and give them your presentation? I said, absolutely, I would love to be afforded that opportunity. So that's kind of where that fell apart.
And, you know, in the course of investigating the program and representing to council, could you explain the process you engaged in as you prepared to address them and all that sort of thing?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, I wanted to show that this wasn't just a sick dog, that this was a reputable kennel that we were receiving the canine from. She was working with us. She had already said, yeah, the dog is an older dog. The dog was approximately 5 to 6 years old. I spoke to other chiefs who had erected their own canine units with their departments who ensured me you can get 10, 12 years out of a service dog. If they're giving you a free dog, absolutely take it. It's going to save you a vast amount of money. After speaking with them, I was confident that, you know, this was a good choice. The kennel owner actually said, you know, if for any reason the dog that I've donated, services were cut short, I'll donate another dog for free. Because that's what she does. She likes to ensure that she can provide understaffed police departments with canine opportunities. With that being said, we started to move forward with the project, align the financials. We had discussed the Discover grant, we had discussed Homeland Security, which had ample funding in to fully fund this program without requesting any money from the taxpayers. That's when this became a sticky situation. We had a financial meeting requested by Ms. Todd, I believe sometime in May, where a lot of financial discrepancies were discovered. The Discover grant was not reconciled properly. Our numbers did not match Ms. Todd's numbers in any facet. She basically said that there was no money in Homeland Security. During that financial meeting, my administrative assistant resigned on the spot, got up and walked out, said he wasn't going to be in the middle.
Could you pause in a moment and explain why you resigned?
Over the discrepancy of the Homeland Security grant.
I'm gonna check, I don't know if this is either part of the investigative report or part of the actual allegations in the notice of intent to terminate regarding this grant. I don't recall reading that in the administrative report. I believe what was, we were talking about there is a discussion about the canine program, but it had to do with the health of the dog.
So his testimony on that subject matter is not solicited, that was just his testimony. It's out there, it's fair questioning now for both counsel.
Thank you. So, again, with respect to, so you're saying it was a sticky situation, there were issues with the grant, and when you said that, you meant the Homeland Security grant, yes?
Yes, that grant specifically. That's what caused the disagreement between my police administrator and Ms. Todd, and he came to me and said, I don't want to be part of this anymore, and resigned on the spot.
Okay, so then later on, after that, I understand that information was eventually presented to council about the dog and about the underlying circumstances that you were describing. Could you summarize for us what the information was that you presented to council regarding all this?
On the June council meeting, I was afforded the opportunity to give my presentation to council, which myself and Corporal Tucker were present for, to just provide them with the full program from start to finish. What our plan was to execute this, where we were going with it, and to give it from the police chief's perspective. They heard my side of it. They decided to reverse their decision, and they would table it for further discussion.
Okay. Did you present any information at that time? Or was there any information presented at that time about the health of the canine, or did that get presented later?
To the best of my recollection, I can't remember if it was the June meeting or the July or August meeting. They all kind of blend together. They were all very long meetings. But at some point in time, yes, we provided the full medical record for the canine.
Right.
To the members of council.
And so, what happened after that information was provided?
They made the decision to get the dog, to maintain the dog that was in our care.
So to maintain the program and to continue with that specific dog?
Yes.
Okay. Now, with respect to another, I think, issue that was discussed previously and is in reports, meaning previously today, there was an incident around this time, I believe it was after the June meeting, that was described that you witnessed or overheard some statements being made by Ms. Todd. Could you elaborate what happened after a meeting, I believe around June?
Yeah, it was after the June meeting. Obviously, the June meeting was a little intense. She had her opportunity in the executive session that I wasn't privy to provide council with information. I countered that information with my factual information. In that meeting, she had an outburst at one, I believe, Councilman Nelson. So tensions were high. I understood it. Upon conclusion of the meeting, disbursement from the council chambers, I believe it was myself, Lieutenant Thomas, and Carolyn Chisenhall, the town clerk, left in the council chambers. Everyone basically had dispersed. I was standing near the council table, and I could hear loud voices as I made my way out of the council chambers into the hallway next to the town offices. I walked in, and I'm going to use explicit language, if that's okay with everyone.
It's in the report. Go ahead and testify accurately.
As I walked out of the room, I heard Ms. Todd state, that two-faced motherfucker, if he wants to play games, will fucking play games. At that time, I turned the corner. She saw me. The conversation stopped. She was in the room with herself and Councilman Massey. The lieutenant was directly behind me. I don't know if he was just trying to de-escalate the situation or make the situation less tense. The lieutenant kind of hopscotched into her office, like playing hopscotch, and said, look, I can play games. At which time I didn't want the situation to escalate. I just walked away and walked over to my side of the building.
Firstly, was there anything that transpired at the meeting, to your understanding, that would have made Ms. Todd upset?
Well, that's when it was disclosed to council that there was a lot of financial discrepancies, especially with the grants that were going to be utilized to start the canine program. That was brought to light publicly.
And so, specifically as to the grants, do you keep track in your capacity as the police chief, the sources of funding that your department has?
Yeah, for the department itself, we do three things. We log it, we track it, and we report it. That's the only financial status we have as a police department. We don't handle funds, we don't funnel funds, we don't pay checks, I don't sign my name on any form of reimbursements or anything. That's the financial officer's job. So that's kind of where it stops. We log it, we track it, and we report it. Our numbers weren't matching.
Could you elaborate on the specific circumstance that you believe caused Ms. Todd to be so upset? You were talking about numbers not matching and so on. Could you please explain what you uncovered?
Well, in that financial meeting that we had in May, she was claiming that that money was just put into the general funds, and we have no idea where the money went, which raised a lot of red flags and concerns with me as the chief of police, because I signed off on that. Literally, my first council meeting, I signed off on that report that that money was available. It was reported on our side as available. It had been tracked that it was available. So
When you say that money, which money do you mean?
I apologize. The Homeland Security money, as well as the other grants. There was a lot of financial discrepancies. The numbers just did not match.
Okay. And so, how did you come to find out that money was placed in the general fund as opposed to segregated for the specific grant?
She provided us me, myself, and the police administrator with a, like a screenshot of the ACH that was deposited in March of 2021. And that money's supposed to have been accounted for since 2021, now it's just not there.
When you say she or your
I
friend?
apologize, Miss Todd.
So she showed you a picture of an electronic fund transfer?
It was a printout of an ACH from our bank accounts, and the date was highlighted. I believe it was March the 21st of 2021 that the ACH was deposited into our checking account.
And that ACH was in connection with grant monies?
Specifically, that ACH was for Homeland Security.
Okay. And we're talking about red flags and how you sign off on it. Could you explain what you mean when you say you sign off and it raises red flags? Why was that concerning to you?
We have to do an annual report to them that we didn't have any expenditures on that money, that money's still accessible. Myself and the lead, in this circumstance, was the mayor, were handed this form and say, hey, yeah, Homeland Security money is there and it's accessible. Check, yep, on our books, we had the exact amount. I believe it was $6,800 some accessible, signed off on it. Unbeknownst to myself that there was a discrepancy.
Understood. And to be clear, did you discuss this discrepancy at the council meeting?
Not in detail, I just said that there was financial discrepancies with the grants that I had planned on utilizing to fund the K-9 program.
Okay. And you talked about what you witnessed after the meeting with Ms. Todd expressing frustration against someone. Did you take that someone to be yourself?
Oh, absolutely.
Why did you make that conclusion?
Just by her demeanor in here, obviously, again, I admitted things were tense in here, some truths were told. When I came out, I could not, there was no one else she could have been speaking about.
Okay. What happened in the intervening hours and the day after, if anything, after you observed her making these remarks?
I believe it was the following day after Mr. Massey had met with me. Don't quote me, I can't remember the exact dates, it's been a while. I came to work in the morning and on our side is secured. No civilian employees can get on our side. Only sworn police officers and the police administrator can enter our side of the building. When I came in, I have a bin on my door where officers will leave reports, things of that nature, anything that needs my revision and approval. My bin was literally overflowing. There was just copious amounts of paperwork falling out of my bin. And I'm like, wow, great, it's gonna be a busy day today. So I started to review the paperwork and saw it was things of management.
Say that again, things of,
Management,
thank you.
National Night Out. We were hiring for a new police administrator since my old police administrator had just resigned. Ms. Todd and I were working on that hiring process together. At any little event, town events were included in there. Anything that had to do with the K-9 project and the K-9 funds were shoved in there. So I went to my lieutenant who was here and I said, who put this in my bin? And he stated that he did under the direction of Ms. Todd. So I collected it, walked over, went to find out what was going on. The door was closed and Councilman Massey was in having a conversation with Ms. Todd. I didn't want to interrupt, so I turned around to walk away, and Mr. Massey stopped me and waved me in. So I came in, I basically inquired why all this paperwork was left in my bin, what's going on, what's up. She looked directly at me and said, my attorney advised me that I'm not to do anything that's not in my job description. So I was called off guard a little bit and said, well, does that mean you're just not going to do your job? You're not going to help me? I guess the level of cooperation here is just done. She didn't say much. I was just trying to find out why this relationship had been severed. When I was hired, everybody was like, oh, the two sides need to cooperate. Everybody has to work together. There can't be a wall. I believed in that, and I wanted to keep it that way. At which time I went to Mr. Massey, who's a council member, who is both of our bosses. He's our boss. That's who we answer to. And I said, is this okay? Are you okay with this? And he just kind of shrugged his shoulders, and I said, so I guess this is the Red Sea. There's the town hall side, and there's the police department side. He again shrugged his shoulders, and I admittedly was, a little upset, and I looked at him and I said, well, now I can see why the old chief left. And I turned around and walked out with all the paperwork. I went back over, started to sort through the paperwork. I found an envelope with cash in it. My police department has a very strict policy, we do not handle cash. We don't, it's not accessible on our side, that is the town side and the financial side. I took the envelope directly back over, tried to give it to Miss Todd, she refused to take it. She said, you can just put it on Carolyn's desk. And I said, well, there's cash in it, now it needs to be accounted for, we need to count it. She wouldn't acknowledge me, so I counted the money, initialed it, that it had been in my possession, and now it's going back to the town side. At which time, while I was doing that, she questioned me and said, well, I want to know what that comment meant. And I said, well, what comment is that? And she said, about the old chief leaving. And I said, well, it's evident. My comment is evident that, you know, if it's not Janet's way, there's no cooperation, it's just done. And I turned around and walked out. So that was the end of that interaction.
In the course of your examining this circumstance and trying to suss out what was happening with the ability to proceed with the program, the monies and so on, did you ever take a look at any sort of like town meeting minutes or records?
I did. During that May financial meeting, when I began to ask questions about the Homeland Security money and saw that the ACH was made way back in 2021, which I just want everyone to remember, I wasn't hired until December of 2024. So basically 2025. I'm dealing with a lot of things from past chiefs, past administrations, trying to clean things up. So when this was presented to me, I kind of asked, well, what's going on? Her response to me was, I don't know, I wasn't the town manager. It wasn't my responsibility. It was put in the general funds. I don't know what happened to the money. I was under the understanding that she was still the financial manager at that time. So I felt as though she was responsible for the money. And now the police department might come under scrutiny for what happened to the money. It came to light that I said, well, all of our meeting minutes or all of our council meetings are recorded. The minutes are publicly accessible out here in the lobby. So I came out and pulled our books, began to look through the books, at which time Ms. Todd approached me and basically questioned me what I was doing. I said, I'm good, I don't need any help, thank you. She stood over my shoulder, continuously asked me what I was doing, what I needed help with. I said, my exact words were, Janet, I'm fine, I can find what I'm looking for. These are publicly accessible records. And she began to berate me and say, well, I don't come on your side and dig through your stuff and things of that nature. And I said, I'm good, please just leave me alone. So I found a couple of the records. I located all of the meeting minutes from March, April, May, and June. I'm sorry, February, March, April, May, and June of 2021. In the February meeting minutes, it basically notated that council had approved her to become the acting town manager, which in March 10th, I believe was the council meeting, she was named the town manager. So her statement that she was not the town manager when this money was placed into the general funds was false.
And did anything happen with respect to the materials you said that were in the lobby? Did anything happen to those materials? Did you observe anything regarding those materials after that interaction?
Upon me completing viewing them, I placed them back on the shelf. When I came back to work the next day, all of the materials that were readily accessible to the public for public access had been removed.
Did you ever find out where the materials were?
Yes, Ms. Chisenhall advised me that Ms. Todd had removed them.
And again, these items that you were looking for is nothing more than the records of the town's prior meetings.
That's all it was, yeah.
You mentioned a little bit about how there was some tenseness during the meeting itself, or during several meetings that it was a tense time. Could you describe what you meant about specifically like Ms. Todd or her demeanor, or what you mean by that in terms of the tenseness or any exchanges you observed during those meetings, the actual council meetings?
I mean, she would have outbursts. She would interrupt council members, talk over council members. That specific meeting, upon my completion of my presentation of the K-9 unit, I believe it was Councilman Nelson began to make a motion to reverse their original decision from the executive session, and she continued to interrupt him to basically make statements, which he took control of his council chambers and shut her down. You could tell she was visibly frustrated, and I don't want to say angry because I don't know her emotions, but she was visibly frustrated.
So during the, earlier today, during this hearing, there was some discussion about a complaint that was received about a police officer, and I don't wanna talk about the name of that individual, so I'd ask you to not mention that name. But with respect to any interaction you had with Mr. Campanella about that complaint, did he in fact ask you to examine whether you as the chief or the police department had received record of any sort of complaint made by a citizen about a member of the police department?
He did. So, after my interview with Mr. Campanella, he had reached back out to me. He had informed me that a complaint had been lodged with, Ms. Todd, and we did determine that it was prior to my appointment. I wasn't the chief. And he was requesting that I check our discipline and/or internal affairs files to see if a complaint had made it to a previous chief or anything of that nature. I looked through all of our files, no such complaint existed, and there was no notification of such complaint.
So I also want to understand in terms of your general interactions with Ms. Todd, do you have any, as you sit here today or from before, during the time of that request, do you bear any personal animus towards Ms. Todd?
No, none at all. It was my intent when I came here, and I received such a warm welcome when I became the chief. And initially, it was, a good working relationship, but it was abruptly shortened just because she has a department to run, I have a department to run, and sometimes our opinions will butt heads. I understand, in the spirit of cooperation, that's going to happen. I can let bygones be bygones. We had a personally closed door meeting after the executive session for me to basically vent to her and say, please just don't ever undermine me again. If you have an issue with something I'm doing, bring it to my attention. Don't bring it to an executive session to council where I'm not afforded the opportunity to defend myself.
To defend myself?
Defend myself.
Thank you.
So, given that, you testified truthfully, correct, regarding the status of any reports, that is essentially your truthful under oath statement. You received no reports when Mr. Campanella called you to ask that you examine that issue.
Yeah, I would have no reason to lie about that.
Okay.
I'm always truthful.
I want to ask you some questions about a few exhibits. So you're going to be in this big black binder in front of you.
May I scoot up to the table?
You may.
Okay.
I don't want him to get any sort of rotating stuff in. You're just trying to move this thing around. So if you could please direct your attention to Exhibit 11. Let me know, review Exhibit 11. Let me know whether you're familiar with that exhibit at all. Once you're done reviewing, I'll have some questions for you, but let me know when you've given it a look.
So this just looks like an email chain between myself and Ms. Todd in regards to some of the audit information.
And then flipping back to page 351, there's some documentation there.
351, sir.
Yeah, up top, the base numbering, if you can start there and look at the next few pages that populate this exhibit, and let me know if those materials are familiar to you.
Yes, they do.
So what are these, to your best of your recollection, what are these interactions about, and what are the materials about in this exhibit?
The town had began its audit with the company PKS. With that being said, obviously, Ms. Todd needed some things from me. She had stated that the auditors would be here and that I would need to be readily accessible for them to answer any questions in regards to the police department side of anything that she might have had. I received a separate email from her basically requesting these several receipts that she could not locate for police department purchases. No problem, we can try to see, because again, we log, track, and we report. If there was purchases made on the police department side, we should maintain the records of the receipts for our own records, for our own audit purposes. With that being said, I started to look through these. We were able to locate one, which was, a donation that was made for the He Cook Foundation.
Say it again for me,
The He Cook Foundation.
heat cook,
He Cook, Heacook.
thank you.
That was definitely a police department item. As we started to look into this further, we couldn't locate receipts, which we maintain pretty strict records of our receipts.
Hang on, pretty, I can't, when somebody coughs, I have trouble hearing.
No worries.
We maintain
Pretty good, accurate records of our receipts for audit purposes. We began to look through our digital copies, then we began to look through our old school paper copies. Could not locate any more receipts that she was requesting. Did a little homework, called some companies, put in some legwork, we were able to locate these receipts. Upon requesting a copy of the receipt, we were able to determine that these were purchases made, but not for the police department, they were made for the town side, mainly Public Works, and then were billed to the police department.
So to your understanding, the Public Works debits were being counted against the police department's budget, essentially?
Correct.
And you were able to determine what was happening here by reaching out to the actual vendors involved?
Yeah, we reached out to the actual vendors, basically provided them a time frame. They scoured the records and we were able to confirm, yeah, we did business with the town of Greenwood. They were able to send me the actual invoices, and those invoices showed that there wasn't a purchase made by the police department. And then those purchases, as you see on our specific lines, these won't be stamped, but as you see on the page 351, this is an invoice that is processed by the police department. We have a punch, we put a code on it, we put the amount, we put if it's paid for by a grant, and then we put our specific budget line item number, which 5091P should come back to like our donations and our honorarium.
Understood. And so do you know specifically where, when you're describing this, where did the record and the information come from as to this being counted as something debited against your budget? Was that from?
From the email that Ms. Todd provided me. The email named 4 things. The first was the approximate date, the money, and it was labeled as supplies PD. The second was $100 for charitable donation. Third was $59 office supplies PD. The fourth was Lockwell for $1,398 supplies PD. So that's where that money was being taken from out of our budget.
Understood. How much time would you say you or individuals who are law enforcement officers specifically, how much time was expended in trying to untangle issues involving the audit?
I myself spent over 44 man hours just attending to the audit. Another officer spent over 38 hours attending to the audit.
And what are your typical responsibilities, setting aside the audit issue? What is the typical activity you'd be engaging in if you're not addressing like an audit question or something like that?
Public safety,
So you're out patrolling the town?
yeah, all aspects of public safety. Administratively, I'm a working chief, so I do patrol the town, but my job as the chief of police is to provide public safety.
So not to belabor the obvious, but when you were addressing these issues with the audit, and one of your colleagues was addressing the issues with the audit, you weren't out on patrol, like multitasking or something, taking care of this stuff. You were spending time at town hall addressing these audit issues.
To the point I felt as though I needed to advise counsel of this. I felt in council meeting that they weren't seeing the officers out on the street because we were tied up in the office, providing assistance for the audit. So I actually brought them to council and told them how many man hours we had spent on the audit.
Thank you. I'd like to have you direct your attention to Exhibit 12. And if you could review these documents and let me know if they're familiar at all to you, and if so, please explain what they are.
So this is the Homeland Security grant that I was referring to earlier. I am familiar with them. I was able to track down most of this information from our files.
So you've reviewed these materials before.
I have.
When you say the Homeland Security information we were talking about earlier, this is with respect to the grant that was misdeposited or improperly deposited?
That's correct.
Objection, that calls for a legal conclusion, I think.
I don't think,
can say.
Rephrase.
this is the stuff that was not segregated but was deposited in the general fund.
Correct.
Okay. I'd ask that this be moved in March of 2012.
Any objection?
I don't have any objection, Your Honor.
Thank you for the promotion.
Moving on to Exhibit 13. So are you familiar with Exhibit 13?
I am.
And what is Exhibit 13 to your understanding?
It was an email directed, well, I guess I was CC'd in this email from Ms. Todd, requesting information in regards, looks like from the K-9 program.
And did this interaction with Ms. Todd prompt you to follow up with her and have any discussion about the K-9 program at that time? Or, you know, what if anything transpired around the time of this email being sent?
We had many conversations about the K-9. My biggest goal was trying to get the K-9 insured, which was halted on numerous occasions by Ms. Todd.
When you say halted, could you explain?
Made numerous requests to find out why it wasn't getting information about the dog being insured.
Understood. Regarding Exhibit 15, if you could review Exhibit 15 and tell me when you've had a chance to look at it.
I do recall most of these emails and the email chains that are accompanying it.
And the email chains that are,
Accompanying it.
thank you.
And what were these emails about?
Well, some of them were carte blanche, just to cover a couple topics that, to show we did have good lines of communication at one point in time. The very first one shows just basically, hey, a rundown of, we got some topics we need to discuss. Obviously, the K-9 project is in there. The second one mainly pertaining to the K-9 and her referring to me what the council's decision was after the executive session, her pressing me to get more information about what I'm doing with the K-9. More about the K-9, a lot about the K-9 it looks like.
And the emails that were sent in May, chronologically speaking, those were sent after council, I think, decided to put the program on hold. Is that accurate?
Yes, that is correct. The program was placed on hold after the May executive session.
So it was after these emails, or sort of after in time, that led you to, you know, if you could explain the timeline to me, that's when you started looking into things further around this time and after that time to figure out the status of the K-9, specifically its medical situation.
Can you repeat that?
Yeah, so I think at some point in time, I don't know if it was before, after, or during these emails, you started to look into things, as you explained earlier in your direct examination. Do I have my timeline correct? Were you like actively looking into the status of the canine at this time? Had you just been told that it was being put on hold? Explain to me where in the timeline you were kind enough to provide earlier these emails fall on that timeline.
Right, so the canine program had started. Again, as I testified earlier, you know, I kind of had to be pushed to get it out to council because someone had leaked it out of the bag on me a little early. With that being said, I think at the executive session, they decided that they were going to not go with the canine program. I met with Councilman Massey, stated that he supported the program, but didn't want me to have that dog. Wanted us to get a green dog.
Green.
Green. That term kept getting thrown out by Ms. Todd. I think that term was misutilized. I don't think no one really actually realized what the term green dog meant. I think they believed green dog meant a puppy, like a young dog. I believe it was the June council meeting, I educated everyone on what green dog actually means. But that's neither here nor there. During that meeting with Mr. Massey, he did listen to my facts and afforded me that opportunity to bring it back before council. So this was a continuous process. It wasn't like it just stopped and it was picked back up. Once I spoke with him the day after the executive session, I knew that I was going to be given an opportunity to bring my case back before council. So this project continued to go.
Then in terms of this later email at Greenwood 386 saying canine insurance, looks like there's a reference there Friday, June 27th about copy and paste, and you're asking about a copy and paste. Could you explain what's going on here?
I'll maintain to this specific email, I won't touch on others. I noticed that she had sent me, upon my request, she sent me an email and it says, "Hello Janet," and it's coming from Janet Todd. And she says, "This is the response I got back from the underwriter." That was the response given. And she kept stating that the insurance company would not insure the dog until the dog was serviceable. All the other chiefs of police that I spoke to, all the other police departments that I spoke to had no problem insuring their dogs prior to training. They wanted to get those dogs covered with liability as soon as they had the dogs in their possession. For some reason, the town of Greenwood was having trouble getting their dog insured. Could not figure out why. Asked her numerous times, "Hey, can get this done, or can you put me in contact with the insurance carrier and I'll speak to him personally?" That would never happen, so I basically asked her this in email, and I can read it. "Could you please provide me with the quote from the town of Greenwood insurance carrier or provider in reference to adding a police canine? The listed email below appears to be a copy and paste from a separate email chain. Can you please provide me with the full email chain or provide me with our agent or the point of contact's contact information?"
So how long did it take you in terms of following up and trying to get this information before you ended up writing this email? Like, had you been trying to get this information prior to this?
Since April.
I'm gonna object, I don't know where the insurance for the dog issue comes from and why it's relevant to this matter.
So one of the allegations is that Ms. Todd was not sharing information and not engaging in basic administrative functions. I believe it's specifically allegation 2 or 3, but in any event, that's one of the things that was testified to. There's a lot of direct examination questioning about, well, where are emails showing that things weren't followed up on, or we couldn't get hold of things, and this is one such example. And we have here the individual who's directly involved in this. So I think it's directly related to the allegations.
So going to overrule the objection, this is not the first time we've heard about insurance.
Thank you. So anyway, just to reiterate the question so you can answer, you know, how long did it take you to the point up until you ended up asking this question in this way, specifically in this email, trying to get this information?
I have been trying to get a quote for insurance since the early inception of the unit, which was back in April.
And when you say trying to get a quote, that was asking Ms. Todd, interacting with Ms. Todd?
Yes.
I'd like to ask you to direct your attention to Exhibit 17, please.
Before I ask your next question, I want to note that we are a little bit 5 after, or a little bit later, actually closer to 10 after 4. The hearing is scheduled to go to 6. There was a request to perhaps have a hard stop at 5. So are we going to be able to go to 6 o'clock is my question to council.
I would have to verify some issues before I agree that'd be okay.
Okay. Does that present a question, an issue for council members? Can we proceed to 6 PM?
I'm fine with that.
Okay. All right, so I just want to put that out there so council can consider the scope of the questioning. Obviously, we have cross-examination, redirect, and so on. There are other witnesses. And if the town would like to get its presentation done today, we're getting into late hours.
Yes, so, are you,
And I'm sorry, before I let you go, you said you might have to do some checking. When do you need to check and let us know?
I would say let's wait till after this witness, maybe.
this is my last question, actually.
Okay, that's fine. Sorry for interrupting.
That's quite all right. So, or I should say my last line of questioning about, this is the last topic. So, could you please take a look at Exhibit 17 and let me know what this exhibit is?
This is the complaint that I wrote to the mayor after the incident that occurred after the council meeting on June 11th.
And so this was written, I guess, the day after?
Yeah, it was written on the 12th, when I came to work and found the copious amounts of paperwork shoved in my bin.
What ultimately prompted you to write this? What would you say, like what made you decide to proceed with putting this in writing?
Well, I mean, the unprofessionalism the night after the council meeting was obvious, but then the clear level of cooperation was severed. I knew that the working environment between the two of us was going to be strained, so I wanted to bring it to council's attention. I answered to mayor and council.
I have nothing further this time.
Mr. Falcone, are you prepared for cross?
Yes, Kevin Eichman, he was a former police department administrative assistant,
Yes, council.
and he was involved in the procedures that led to these discussions that you testified about regarding K-9 dog.
Yeah, he was part of the work group.
Okay, and Ms. Todd was part of the work group too?
Yes, sir.
And when this idea of a K-9 dog originally came up, you, Mr. Eichman, Janet Todd got together and said, hey, let's map out some parameters on how we bring this program together.
Yeah, I created the work group because I believe if you value other people's opinions, bring them all together, you're gonna get more buy-in.
Sure.
People are gonna cooperate better.
Ms. Todd was not shutting down the K-9 program at that time.
Not at all, she was helping me support the program, a big promoter.
She was helping support the program. And you talked about this idea of, I'm just gonna look at what's been marked as Exhibit 15 in your group here. And under 379, paragraph 2, this is an email from Ms. Todd to Thomas, and you're CC'd on it, correct?
Yes, I am.
And it says K-9 project, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, and then do you think Ms. Todd is cooperating at this point with the K-9 project and offering reasonable proposals regarding the timeline and budget and everything?
Yeah, I believe she was voicing her opinion, yes.
What, it was anything she's saying there outward, hostile, or out of line?
Say that again, is anything she's saying there?
Out of line or hostile?
Thank you.
If you don't mind, I'll just take a minute to review the entirety of that subsection 2. And can you repeat your question, sir?
So it's do you think her email and her proposals in this, as, under the Canine project are reasonable?
I think are reasonable questions, yeah.
Okay, and you talked about this notion that she was blocking, providing insurance for the canine unit?
Yeah, I had requested quotes for the canine insurance numerous times.
Okay, and so what, April 22nd, 2025, was that when you first started discussing the canine?
Yeah, this was approximately our second meeting of the work group.
Pretty early into the process, would you agree?
Yes,
Yes,
thank you.
And I'm looking at an email, date stamp 384, that same exhibit, May 21st, 2025, looks to be,
I'm sorry, where you at, sir?
it's date stamp 384. On the top there is an email from Janet Todd, a little over a month before that second meeting, forwarded to David Walton, correct?
At the top here?
Yes.
Yes,
And it looks like Miss Todd is inquiring regarding insurance for the dog, canine dog, right?
so this was actually a separate suggestion. I made this suggestion to Ms. Todd after I hadn't heard anything about the initial insurance, that maybe we could just contact the state and see if the
Okay.
state could give us this.
And
So
she,
this was their response, I didn't mean to cut you off, this was
It's
their
okay.
response.
she forwarded you the whole email, the phone number, email address and everything, right?
Yes,
So this would, you think, she's, right at this point, Mrs. Todd is seeking out insurance options regarding the canine, right?
yes,
And do you think that's fairly timely considering your second meeting was after April 22nd, 2025?
yes,
Okay, and then I'm looking at the base stamp number 386. It looks like this is where you talk about the copy and paste issue, June 27, 2025.
yes,
And she gives you a copy and paste, but she does list the person's name, Aaron Populas. Is that correct?
yes,
Okay, so she's communicating to you right now regarding the canine and insurance and things like that, right?
where do you see that line of communication?
Well, it's May 28, 2025, she emailed you, and this is right around the same time she emailed you the other insurance information regarding the canine unit.
Right, I don't see any, that was a copy and paste, I don't see,
Right.
say there's correspondence.
Well, it's still correspondence, even though I understand you weren't satisfied with the copy and paste. She's still communicating with you regarding her inquiries into the canine unit.
Right, the information that I was requesting wasn't being given to me.
I understand that, but she's still communicating with you. You were frustrated that you didn't get the insurance, but she's at least got 2 communications to you within a month of that second meeting regarding insurance, correct?
I don't object to the form of the question. Clearly, the date on the second communication is well over a month.
The question's appropriate, you can ask if you have matters on redirect. You may do so.
I'm looking at the email on the bottom there, May 28, 2025, right?
Yes,
That's a little after, just to make sure I'm clear, that's a little after a month after your second meeting, right?
yes,
And that's right around the same time, she also sent you information regarding the public sector information, insurance, right?
yes,
Now, the issue, the conflict became when Miss Todd found out you had obtained a dog prior to getting approval by council, is that correct?
I don't know when her issue became, I can't speak for her.
Okay, you didn't inform her at the time the dog was obtained, is that correct?
No, I did not inform her that we had accepted a donated canine.
Okay, and that dog was acquired in May, right?
Sometime around that time, yes.
Okay, so you didn't inform your working group that you had obtained the canine dog?
They knew what our options were, and as I explained earlier, I, as the chief, have the daunting task of making those decisions. I accepted their opinions, but I made the decision.
But they're part of, I mean, you just gave us a whole spiel about, hey, working together, so everyone feels invested, we're all invested in the process, right? Yet when you actually do the thing, getting the dog, you don't let them know.
Well, of course she knew. She was informed.
When, wasn't she, first time she was informed when she received the veterinary bill on her desk?
I don't believe so.
And did, that dog that you obtained in May was not approved by council, correct? There wasn't a vote to approve that.
No, there was no vote for that.
So you obtained a dog for your police department without the approval of town council, is that correct?
Correct.
You didn't think that might cause some friction?
My policies dictate that I can create and change and alter my special units as I see fit as the chief of police. I can erect units, as long as it doesn't require any other financial burden to the town, I can do so.
Isn't it true that the conflict between you and Ms. Todd was created at the time that she found out you obtained a dog without council approval?
I'm not sure when she decided there was conflict. I can't answer that.
Did that timing, but prior to that, you guys had a working group, right?
Yes, yeah.
And she was actually responding to your request regarding insurance, right?
To a certain extent, not
To a certain,
yeah.
not to your full satisfaction, I understand that. And then the time this conflict happens is when you actually acquire a dog without getting it approved by town council. Isn't that the course of the chronology?
Can you repeat that question differently for me, so I can understand it?
The conflict happened when she was set a vet bill for a dog that you acquired without town approval, correct?
Well, I didn't have conflict. There was no conflict on my end.
I understand there was no conflict. You got the dog, but the conflict, like Miss Todd, with Todd happened when you got she received a vet bill, not knowing that you had got a dog without town approval. Is that correct?
To the best of my knowledge, she knew we had already accepted the dog.
And do you have any confirmation of that?
Just conversations in her office. She knew that the handler was having a visit with the donating kennel, and that the handler had to be bonded to the dog to see if the dog would bond with the handler from the donation. She knew that.
Okay, can you possibly say that she knew that the dog was donated at that time?
I would assume she did.
Okay.
We had that conversation that the canine handler was meeting with the kennel owner that was bringing us a dog that was going to be donated, but the dog had to be basically bonded to see if the two would fit.
At that time, the dog had not been approved for you to acquire the dog by council, correct?
No,
Is that dog currently trained?
not yet, no.
And how long have you had the dog?
It's been in our possession since, I believe, May.
And you had some disputes with Ms. Todd regarding grants, right?
Yes,
Wasn't part of the dispute was that she wanted some grants have specific purposes for what they have to be used for?
that was my concern.
It wasn't a concern by Ms. Todd that the Discover grant had to be used for a third officer?
I had many conversations with Ms. Todd about the stipulations of the Discover grant. At one portion in time, she agreed that it could be used because the dog was going to be assigned to the third officer, which would be equipment directly used by the third officer. Then when we had discrepancies over how much money was in Discover grant, then she recanted her statement and said, no, we cannot use the Discover grant.
And she said you couldn't use it because it had to be used for the funding of the third officer.
She said it had to be used for the third officer.
That was the dispute, right?
Yes.
Now, if you could go to my, Greenwood exhibits there's a folder,
This binder, sir?
that binder there, yeah. Now, before you get to that, I'll just ask you some questions. You talked about working on audit items, right?
Yes, sir.
Some of those audit items, invoices you had to acquire were pre-Ms. Todd becoming the town manager, is that correct?
Which ones are you referring to,
Well,
sir?
you had, like, she had requested, hey, I need some of these invoices for the audit, correct?
They were pre-me being the chief. I don't know if they were pre-her hire.
Do you recall, do you know that do you know when Ms. Todd became town manager?
Yes, it was, March 10th of 2021. That's when she was appointed to
Okay.
council.
Some of the invoice, and also she became the official town manager in June 2021, right?
The records state that it was March 10th of 2021.
Okay. Well, I believe the record, that's when you remember, regardless, you understand that some of the invoices that you had to obtain were invoices that were during a prior administration, pre her becoming town manager, correct?
I wasn't aware of it, now I am.
Okay. If I could point you to Exhibit 14. Under Janet Todd, it's under JT0025.
May I take a few minutes to review this? This is the first time I'm seeing it.
Sure.
So just while he's reviewing it, I'm gonna go ahead and lodge an objection to the entry of this record.
Would like to hear voir dire on this. I've heard the witness say he has not seen it before.
He looked at, I'm just showing him it, I didn't know if he didn't see it before, so I'm allowing him to review it, I'm just asking questions regarding it, I'm not offering it at this time, so, I mean, if he doesn't see it, he hasn't seen it.
Okay. Does that satisfy your objection for the
For now.
So we're just reviewing Exhibit 14, sir?
Yeah, I'm just gonna ask you a question regarding it, when you're ready, I'll ask the question.
I've summarized it.
Have you ever, this appears to be a grievance dated July 3rd, 2025 by Ms. Todd against yourself and Mayor Cessna, is that correct?
That's what it says.
Have you ever seen this record before?
Never,
You were never called in to discuss it before?
never,
Have you ever heard any of these complaints before?
never.
Okay. If I could get you to go to Exhibit 15, bait stamp JT0027. I'll give you a minute to review it.
So I have a similar objection, but I'll just point out that there's no date on this document at all. It indicates when it was drafted and it's not signed in any way.
Well, it goes to
Noted.
signed on, I think, bait stamp 32, or there's a,
It seems to end on 31 and I see nothing indicating a signature at all. I also will note, I'm not sure if 32 or 31 are the same document, but it does say thank you, Janet Todd at the bottom, but there's no like signature or email or anything of that sort indicating where this came from or where it went.
We have some provenance issues with this. Mr. Poliquin, what is the representation
well, this is a grievance that was filed by Ms. Todd with the town.
So I'm gonna go ahead and object because I don't believe that, I mean, certainly I as counsel of the town don't concede that this grievance was filed. But, you know, Chief Walton, I think, has never seen this document. I've never seen it.
I'm showing him the grievance that was filed, what my client filed with the town. Well, he can review it. If he didn't see it, hasn't seen it, hasn't seen it. I mean, I'm not gonna offer until my client can testify to it. I mean, it makes sense that he's the subject of the grievance for me to bring it up now, since he's leaving.
Let's ask that question.
Have you ever reviewed this document?
Never.
This appears to be a representation regarding your dealings with Miss Todd and regarding the canine unit, canine dog.
Yes, I mean, if you want me to review the whole thing, it looks like a very well laid out timeline. But
When you say it was a well laid out timeline, what do you mean by that?
very,
I'm gonna stop right here. I don't think we're gonna proceed with any questioning on this. There's no history or familiarity with it. It's inappropriate for you to analyze it now.
Okay, that's fine. Can I ask you, is the dog insured currently?
that I can't answer you. We have secured the funding. I don't know if the insurance has been purchased.
Wouldn't you be the one that would know this?
I don't handle the insurances.
Under the town charter, you're subject to the oversight of town council, correct?
Yes,
Regarding this incident with Miss Todd that you talk about after a meeting where, you know, let me get to the date. I guess it was after a June 11th, 2025 meeting? Is that correct?
can you repeat your question?
The incident that you're questioning about after a meeting where you had you stated Miss Todd allegedly made some disparaging remarks that you believe were pointed to you?
Do I remember it?
I mean, yeah, I'm gonna ask you questions about that. I
Yes,
just wanna
I
make sure you
recall.
understand that I'm asking you about
I
that.
recall.
Okay, and, who was around during that time?
As I testified earlier, it was Ms. Todd in her office, Councilman Massey, myself in the council chambers, Lieutenant Thomas in the council chambers, and Carolyn Chisenhall, the town clerk in the council chambers.
So should have Tucker been able to testify that that actually happened?
Corporal Tucker was not present.
Okay, but this is a very big town chamber, would she be able to hear if, what was going on?
I don't believe Corporal Tucker was on duty.
Okay, you don't believe, I was asking you who was around at this time?
I just answered, it was myself in the council chambers, Lieutenant Thomas in the council chambers, town clerk Carolyn Chisenhall in the council chambers, Miss Todd in her office with Mr. Councilman Massey in her office.
Okay, you said Tucker wasn't on duty, I didn't know what you meant by that.
She wasn't here. She wasn't around as far as I remember.
All right, maybe I'm confused by your testimony, so Tucker wasn't around during this incident is what you're testifying to?
Right, not when I walked out this office, no.
Okay, I just wanna make sure, I'm not trying to, but you're saying Lieutenant Thomas was there?
Yes, directly behind me.
He was right there.
Yes, directly behind me.
Do you know if he confirmed that the incident happened or not?
I can't tell you what he confirmed.
Okay, and Mr. Massey was there?
Yes,
So he could have confirmed that, would have confirmed that this incident happened or not?
I would hope they both did. I would hope they were both truthful and confirmed the incident.
Okay. Did you ever see the investigative report regarding Ms. Todd?
What do you mean the investigative
There's an
report?
investigator, while we're here today, there was an investigator, we had an investigator Campanella talk to you.
No, I provided an interview statement, that's it.
You never saw the report, okay. And anybody else that would have seen that happen?
Just the 5 people that I just named.
Does the police department control what bank accounts their grant ACHs go into?
No, we don't handle the finances.
there something called Smart Simple that you use?
Yes, that's for, OHS and OSEC.
You spell OSAC for me, please?
OSEC,
And what is Smart Simple?
the state provision database that keeps track of, our reimbursements from the state for jobs that we work. So OHS is Office of Highway Safety, that'll be any pay jobs that the officers work for traffic safety, things of that nature. OSEC is your violent crime, Sally Edie.
Okay,
What was the last name you said, sir?
Sally and Edie, Sally is S-A-L-L-E, Edie is E-I-D-E.
Thank you.
now regarding this work you had to do, for the audit, you don't know one way or another whether Ms. Todd, that was Mrs. Todd's, mistake that caused that, do you?
What do you mean for the audit?
You said, well, you talked about, hey, we had to spend a bunch of man hours getting these invoices or whatever, correct?
Right,
Okay, you don't know what caused, why those invoices were missing, do you?
no idea.
I have no further questions.
I do have one follow-up. Does the town council have to approve everything you do in your capacity as the chief of police?
No, I have policies and procedures that govern what I as the chief can do, and, mainly anything that I need to, hiring, firing, financials, I would bring before town council.
And those policies, the ability to just to briefly explain the process, those were developed by you and approved by council, or did council authorize you to proceed in that manner when you were hired?
So those policies were existing. Obviously, I do my annual review, and then my policies have to be updated in accordance with post.
At any point in time, there's a number of questions asked about you getting this donated, I think it's German Shepherd, without council approval. Did anyone approach you and say you needed council approval to do this and you were wrong and how dare you do this, or anything to that effect?
No, never.
Has Ms. Todd ever asserted that to you?
No, never.
So the first time that you're hearing, I guess, any concern surrounding approval of council in connection with receiving a donated canine is today at this hearing?
Yes.
I have nothing further.
Just a quick follow-up on that. You had a meeting right after you got the dog where council voted not for the dog program to go forward, right?
The meeting occurred in the executive session I wasn't privy to.
I understand, but council said after they voted, voted after that meeting that the K-9 program is gone, right?
Let me try to clarify this.
Is that, no, it's a yes or no question,
It's
okay?
not a yes or no question.
It is a yes or no question.
And I can't accurately answer your question.
Council got together after you got the K-9 dog, right? Got to the executive session and informed you they weren't gonna be supportive of the program, they weren't accepting the program, right?
It didn't need to go to that extent. It was brought into an executive session unneeded.
That's your opinion, but what actually happened is council got together and said, we're not supporting this program, right?
It is a yes or no question.
Okay, ask the question again so I can understand and give you an accurate answer.
You got the dog, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yes,
thank you.
Council, whether you agree with it or not, got into executive session and said, no dog after that executive session, right?
yes,
Okay, then a month later comes by, and council finally approves the dog, right?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
I have nothing further.
At this time, members of the hearing panel and council members have an opportunity to ask you questions if they so desire. Do any members of the hearing panel wish to ask this witness any questions? Hearing panel members will not ask the witness any questions. May the witness be excused.
Yes.
You are excused. Thank you very much for your time and your testimony. It is now 20 of 5, give or take. You need to check in.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so we are off the record.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes.
Are we we're figuring out now if we're gonna end at 5 or we're gonna end